Versa best company.
Versa Business System.
It's a better
Versa Business System.
It's true. Versa Business System.
Shine.
Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business System, Shaheen Mazloom. We are here with Loretta today. She is a communications and marketing architect, solopreneur, entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today, Loretta. I can't wait to dive in a little bit more on this.
Thank you, Shaheen. By the way, I meant to tell you in the green room that I really love that intro video of yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So Loretta, for those out there that don't know who you are and what your company does, tell us a little bit about you and what Loretta today does.
Yes. So I am as you alluded in the beginning, a communications and marketing alignment architect. So this journey has been long years of journey. It started back in Lithuania, my home country, where I was a news anchor and news reporter. Then I moved to the United States, lived in Silicon Valley for about 17 years, and I did video producing, video storytelling at that time. And what happened during that time was that as I uncovered how to apply my journalism skills into a different medium, I realized that a lot of technology people didn't quite know how to communicate clearly, especially on video. Back then, it was just so new.
Right.
You know, it was 2009 or 10 when I started my Loretta TV business, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of tap into that communication role and coach executives and coach business owners, entrepreneurs, how to be effective in their storytelling using this medium.
Yeah, especially the tech guys, because like a lot of the times the super techie guys are the very or girls are very introverted and not so much the the great speaker or communicator, but they can make amazing things with technology.
Exactly. And that was
great.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I noticed for sure. It was amazing to me to experience that I live in this mecca of Silicon Valley with all these mega brains, people who create innovation. And the moment you put them to talk about it, in front of the camera, they just freeze up.
Right.
I don't know. And it comes obviously from fear, from being judged and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, good speakers on stage, they could be good speakers on stage, but the moment you put them in front of camera, it's a reverse,
Yeah.
because that medium back then was very, very new. So through the years of being as a video producer, I also went into corporate, and I worked at two large, organizations as a in-house video producer. So I worked internally with executive teams, with brand teams, creating stories on technology, on executive communication programs, and really pulling out those stories and messages from the engineering teams themselves, right? Kind of going in and understanding the business, the tech behind, so that I could be more effective in pulling out those messages when they are in front of camera.
Right.
Yeah. And so through these years and learnings and discoveries, I've accumulated a lot of information about marketing. I was seeking that information just to learn how that video as a medium fits into the bigger picture. So I was soaking everything as a sponge, and I knew where I wanted to be in the end. That video became a little bit more limiting to me. It's only one medium of communication, but there's so much more one can do when it comes to communication and marketing together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you start Loretta today?
Loretta today, I think I rebranded myself about 3 years ago now, and it
Okay.
was still a discovery journey. I was still figuring out within those parameters, what do I love doing, what do I really want to
Right.
remove out of my plate, so
Yeah.
that when you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, you usually do a lot of things yourself,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
then you realize I can't scale if I do a lot of things myself.
Yep.
So it's a discovery process still ongoing. Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And really, what drives me, I realize, is this. That's why the program that I recently came out with is architecture, right? I really like seeing the gaps, fixing those problems, and really helping companies architect that model when it comes
Right.
to communication and marketing function inside their organization,
Yeah.
giving them the sort of the blueprint of what that team should look like, understanding and educating them, uh, why these roles are needed in that organization, what are they supposed to achieve. So it's less sporadic, less ad hoc, and
Yeah.
really helps them understand why it is important to communicate and important to get the message clearly, and how that affects the marketing when we go out,
Yeah,
right?
it,
So
it's it, it's so important. It's crazy. You watch some of these commercials sometimes, and you're in the industry, so I'm sure you probably just like it's like chalkboard, right? Nails on a chalkboard. Some of these commercials, you're like, that made no sense, right? Like
yeah.
some of the commercials out there, it's like, what do you even like? You watch the whole commercial and then don't realize what they're even talking about until the very end. Would
Yeah.
you say storytelling is the most effective way to market a product or service?
Yeah, storytelling is it all depends how people understand storytelling, right? Sometimes
Okay.
people hear storytelling and they freak out because it's like a resonance to the book. What do I have to write a book right now? What does it mean,
Right.
storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously in the past several years, storytelling, being authentic, became almost the words that sometimes don't mean anything anymore,
Right.
overused.
Yeah.
So I'm really cautious in using that, but storytelling, how I understand, I will explain it. So to me, storytelling has always been sharing the information, right? So
Yeah.
I come from the background of journalism, TV journalism.
Yep.
So to me, my brain is, I go to an event, I want to share the information of what I learned. That's
Yep.
to me already a story.
Yeah.
In other sense, it is okay. It's an information piece, but to me,
Right.
okay, I learned something. I want to share it with the world.
Right.
So I always think from that perspective. Now, when it comes to company storytelling or leadership storytelling, that's what requires a little bit more digging, a little bit more building out that voice and tone of the brand, what it is
Right.
that you want to portray. How does
Right.
that align with your mission and goals as an owner of the company or leader of the company,
Right.
founder,
What part
if
of the
you're the
story are
original.
you going to discuss? Right.
Yeah. And then aligning that, with visuals, right? With visuals, with all the touch points, even all the way to the customer, service level. That experience has to be the same,
Right.
and that story comes through in different aspects of the business.
Right, right. Now, what is your thoughts on like these super short reels? So like there's a lot of marketing companies out there that are super they're all about the reels. The reels, the organic the organic marketing from reels and short videos. Do you think that that's the hottest trend right now in marketing? Or do you think it's on the flip side is more of your YouTube longer videos that are going to produce a better result?
Well, it all depends on the audience that you're trying to reach, and the
True.
business goals.
Yeah.
A lot of these hook type of content, their goal is to hook you,
Yeah.
and wait for you to click to the next one or buy something, right?
Yeah.
So that's your business model. That's what you do. Your business model is using podcasts and knowledge sharing,
Yeah.
as part of generating your business, because you're adding value. And, I told you in the green room before joining this call that, if the content is valuable, the long form is not an issue,
Right.
because you're getting something out of it, and
Right.
you want to continue
Exactly.
listening, because that would
Right.
happen to me. When I listen to one podcast, if I like the episode, I'm like, okay, I like this podcast. Now I'm going to save it, have the notification icon, enabled, so that I receive notifications when the
Right.
new episode comes out.
Yeah.
And as long as you get that value, I think the short, the brevet sorry, now it's English language barrier kicking in.
No worries.
The brevity of the content is not
Yeah.
really what people are looking for. And honestly, we've lived through so many crazy years these past years that people are looking for realness, for people who have
Oh,
done
yeah.
something and are open to talking about that.
Absolutely.
A lot of times when we
Authenticity
see,
is everything.
yeah,
Everything.
and you when we say corporates, right, or organizations, a lot of times that associates with a little bit of coldness, and a lot of these properly trained old-fashioned executives are just used to hiding,
Yeah.
behind these walls.
Yeah.
So people are smart enough to sense, is this real? Do I trust that company? So the more
Right.
you communicate again, the
Yep.
more you show your character, the more you align that with the company or give a peek to the company values through your own voice, the more
Yep.
connected you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a lot of I mean there's companies out there. I mean even some big companies that I've had on the podcast. You'll look them up and you can't even find like pictures or any videos of
Oh,
the
yeah.
executives, or like they're not even on social media, or it's
Yeah.
like there's no videos, there's no it's like you don't really know anything about them other than what their company does, and it's like how did they even get to that point uh without any
Yeah.
of that stuff, and I think it's it's usually because they're an older company. They've been around 30, 40 years, and back then it wasn't as as common or as needed, but nowadays if you don't have videos and social media and stuff like that, like it's going to be hard for people to know who you are.
Yeah. And what, that alludes to that presence, visual presence, and sort of ability to communicate through all the touch points, with your audience it
Yeah.
just builds trust.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. If I go to, it also depends actually on the industry. Some industries are just very conservative and they're
Yeah.
regulated, like, you're in finance, right? So
Right.
they're regulated, so you can't really talk about a lot of stuff as
Right.
well, right? Unless you have some sort of sign-offs,
Yeah.
but yeah, to me, I think any small business in this day and age, not corporate, but like small growing business, I still today don't understand why they do not adopt that visibility, because small
Right.
businesses, especially when they're regionalized, it's all about connection and relationship building locally,
100%.
and
100%. I've always worked on the national side of business. We can do business anywhere in the country. And um, if I had a local, like a retail or a restaurant or something like that, my marketing would be next level. There would not be a single person in my city that didn't know who I was
who
and
you
what
are.
I did.
Yeah.
Like, it,
Yeah.
it
And
it's so much easier to do it on a local level too.
yeah, and for example, the businesses or the types of business that could really benefit from that relationship building in advance before the customer even steps through the door are really
Yep.
doctors,
Yep.
CPA firms,
Oh yeah.
legal attorneys, or attorneys,
Hmm.
I should say, legal sort of industry,
Yep.
and they're very, very hidden,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
mean, the
one of
the
the
most they
closest.
usually have is a billboard. They've got one billboard in the town, and hopefully everybody drives by it at some point.
Yeah, but that's more like, okay, it's just proof that they can afford it. But it
Yeah.
doesn't tell anything about relationship building.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny. So there's a an attorney that I used once. His name is Randolph Rice, and now I see his commercials almost every time I'm watching TV. I see his commercial, and he's the only attorney probably in the state of Maryland that I see the commercial for. And I mean, the guy, just the amount of money he's spending on commercials, he's got to be crushing the competition, crushing it. Because I mean, it's
Yeah.
on during primetime football games, and I mean, the
Wow.
guy's got to be spending hundreds of thousands a week on TV
Yeah.
commercials. So I can't even
Well, we don't know
imagine how
that
much business
because
he's bringing in.
I think
Well,
the
I guess with
budgets might have
streaming,
reversed.
it's a lot cheaper now with streaming, and now that
Yeah.
it's allowed to be so targeted, it's almost like Facebook and Instagram marketing got so much more expensive, and streaming
Mm.
commercials got so much cheaper.
Exactly. That's the point. So maybe
Yeah.
he's affording that avenue.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I know last quarter around the election, we advised most of our clients to stop doing social media ads because you had the Trump campaign and the Kamala campaign, both with $1 billion each, putting it out on social media and TV. I mean, everything just got so expensive.
Yeah.
And, you
Yeah.
know, it just wasn't cost effective at all.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
So what are some of the main points of marketing other than social media and TV commercials? What are some other ways that businesses can utilize video to tell their story and get out there in front of more customers?
Yeah. So if we shift, to the video, again, video is only one piece of the big marketing tactics one can
Right.
take, right? And if I look at the marketing structure or communication and marketing as a function structure,
Yeah.
it's a big umbrella. So there's messaging, storytelling, and then there's, lead generation, communication with customers, email campaigns, all sorts of campaigns, ad campaigns, video as part of the mix, social media, and so forth. So PR initiatives, thought leadership building. It's a big thing that one can do, right?
It's all about being omnipresent, right? Like you've got to
Yeah.
have the articles, you got to have the blogs, you got to have the videos, you got to have the like you said, the social media posts and the everything working together, so they're seeing you on these different avenues, right?
Yeah, but if we define smaller business owners, right? Because I work with organizations that are B2B, large or medium size, I should say, organizations in tech. But for smaller business owners, that infrastructure becomes very overwhelming, right? And then they freeze and don't do anything because there's no time. So, but I think we are at the point where video is not even a consideration, should not be even a consideration anymore. It's literally a must.
Yeah.
People are evaluating by the connection they receive up front.
Yeah.
If you have not had a picture on your website in the about section for years and years, you should just jump straight into video and introduce
100%.
yourself with a video.
100%. It's funny you bring that up. So literally last weekend, my wife, we were going to go out to dinner. And she said, well, I told my old boss that we'd meet them at this restaurant. I said, okay, we can go there. And I looked it up online. The website was horrendous. So there was, the menu was like pictures that looked like it was taken from a flip phone.
Oh, okay.
A flip phone. Crooked, kind of blurry, and then there was like these Temu ads of these girls bent over in these weird shorts, and it was just, I'm like, we are not going there. That place is a dump, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably got the worst food. It's probably got rats, cockroaches, the worst,
Oh my
right?
God. Okay, so what did you do?
And that was just based on looking at this website, and then I typed in Google. They've got no videos. There's no articles. I'm like, this place has got to be a dump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we decide, it was getting late, and I was like, you know what? Let's just check it out, whatever. Like, worst case scenario, we'll just have a drink with them and go get dinner somewhere else. And we get there, the place is packed.
Wow.
Packed. It's beautiful inside. The hostess was really nice. The waitresses are all dressed nice. The music was great, and we ordered food, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And I grabbed the waiter. I said, can you bring the manager over here, please? She brings the manager over. I said, I would have never in a million years come in here if my wife wasn't meeting someone here. He said, why? I said, have you seen your website? He's like, I didn't even know we had a website. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, we mostly do social media. I'm like, well, people do look at your website, and I guarantee you, you're losing at least 10 to 15 customers every week minimum that go to your website and is like, oh, that place is a rat infested dump, because that's what your website portrays.
Represent, yeah.
Right? Like, just because you have social media doesn't mean everything else doesn't need to be tidied up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't just say, oh, well, our Facebook is great, and so that's why we're getting all these customers. It's like, well, your website is trash. That's why you're not getting as many as you could be. It was just wild to me. It was wild to me. The guy didn't even know they had a website.
But it's when it comes to local places, and it all depends on the size of the business and what they can afford to focus on, right?
Yeah.
So if, let's say, it brings in the money to them, it brings enough customers to continue sustaining that business, then maybe these additional 15 are not a problem. However, we don't know what the number
it's
is.
so
not a
cheap
problem.
nowadays to get to at least get a basic website thrown up. $100, and you can have a decent menu, just something decent that's clean and tidy, and it doesn't have Temu ads on it. You know what I mean? Like $100.
Yeah, and the thing why people don't do that, and organizations, even large organizations, why they don't do that is because they don't know.
They just don't
know who could actually help them to do it.
Where
right?
do they go? Who's going to help them?
Find.
Is it going to cost me 10 grand? Because the last time I checked it out 20 years ago, it was 10 grand for a website.
Yeah. And that's what, where I step in, as a guide, to these organization leaders, because like I said earlier, they're just worried about, building the product, getting market share. They have no idea how to communicate about it or build out the infrastructure, for that presence elevation that will help, build that brand loyalty and visibility better.
Right.
So I guide these leaders, in those organizations, I dive deep into understanding what the business is right now, and then based on the gaps that I uncover, I kind of define the plan and propose, hey, here's maybe phase 1. These are the must do's. You can't even think about not doing these things.
Right.
And then here's phase 2. Maybe in 6 months or a year, you'll be able to get to this project.
Right.
And I kind of help them show that path of success when it comes to aligning the communication and marketing function, and help them find resources. If, let's say, they don't have people in place, then I help interview, because everything that I do I do right now as a coach or advisor, strategic advisor, I've done all of these things myself in my life,
right?
And so I know what to look for, who to look for, how to find them, assess through the interview process, will they deliver, keep them accountable, kick their butts if they're not doing what they're intended to do, and then make that happen so that the owners, the business leaders, feel that impact, and it's like a relief. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, now I don't have to deal about that. There's somebody else who understands this mechanism and can put that infrastructure into place.
Exactly. So do you operate kind of like a fractional CMO?
Yeah, one can call that. I think this is the simple way of understanding what I do. CMO within the scope of where I focus is very limiting. So I never lead with a CMO because I solve 3 problems, 3 P's:
I got you.
People, process, and presence.
Okay.
So people is more about, communication.
Yeah.
Process is kind of operational thing.
Yeah.
And presence is all about marketing.
Right.
So these are the 3
so you're
things
taking
I look at.
all right. So you're not just. I like that. I think that's obviously going to be more effective than just somebody that focuses on marketing, because the person that focuses on the marketing also needs to be in line with the people, the story, the operation, right? It all needs to kind of work together. And I think that's where a lot of small businesses, especially businesses that are trying to scale, kind of screw up, is they have this marketing company handling their marketing, and then this person doing their operations, and this person doing this, and none of them ever talk.
Yeah.
And if they're not, and you can tell when the companies are like that, because you're like, that doesn't make sense. That's different than that. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. But when you're in the business, you don't
You
notice
can't tell.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell that. So the value that I bring to the table, and all comes from my background. I was a video producer, so you can't tell. You can't go to the production
You can take
site.
a sky view of the business and say, okay, now we see where the holes are. Let's plug them so we don't sink. and then
Yeah.
we can start lifting it up.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
kind of build the foundation
Yeah.
and then, rise above that. What are the
Yeah.
next goals? What are the aspirations? Who do we want to beat in the market? Who do we want to be like in the market, right?
Right.
Who are these aspirational companies that we want to be like, right? And then I
Yeah.
always stretch the goals every year, when I work with leaders,
Yeah.
because when they get the taste of the more visibility, and when
Right.
they start hearing from the customers,
Oh yeah.
that they notice the changes,
Yeah.
it
Then they're
just
hooked.
yeah, then they're hooked.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does that process look like? So I'm a small business. We know we need help with, our marketing. We're kind of all over the place. We need to do something to get, whether it's more leads, better leads, decrease our marketing costs, whatever.
Yeah.
What does that process look like? Is it, start with a phone call and then, what, explain to me how
Yeah,
that process
primarily
goes.
with a phone call. But I have a presence checklist that somebody can download on my website, and that
Okay.
could be also a starting point where people who are not ready for a phone call, they don't quite know if they even need it or not.
Right.
I developed this presence checklist where they can check, the company presence level. It has some
Yeah.
questions, very targeted questions, and executive presence level. They can do one of each or both together. It's
Right.
very, very in depth, and I'm still keeping it for free. So if anybody is interested,
Awesome.
go ahead and download it while it's
Okay,
still
great.
available.
I'll put the link in the description. That way you can download that. I'm gonna do that right after this
Yeah, yeah,
podcast. That's great.
yeah. And it has a scoring system, so it depends where you land.
Okay, so
It
you
kind
can
of gives
figure
me an
out where you're
indication.
scoring as far as presence for the company and the executive team.
Yeah, and then
Great.
it's a good indication for me based on what they did in Mark, that missed a
Right.
gap, right?
I'm
That means
curious to see what mine comes out to, because I personally believe our presence is really good, but
yes, I believe so too.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Loretta, thank you so much for hopping on with us today. Can't wait to dive in with you further on the next podcast. Again, I'll put that link in here. If people want to reach you directly, they're like, you know what? I know our presence isn't good enough. What's the best way to reach out to you? Is it going to your website?
Yeah, my website, loretta.today. So Loretta is spelled with one T.
Yep.
And I live on LinkedIn. I have my own presence on Instagram and Facebook. I just
Right.
don't really develop that too much.
Okay. So LinkedIn is also another good way to get a hold
correct.
of you. Awesome.
Yeah. And there's a Calendly link on my website. If somebody wants
Okay.
to schedule a free call,
Easy.
we can do that as well. Mhm.
Perfect. Awesome. So you make it easy for people to get a hold of you
Yes.
and do business with you, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a goal.
That's another thing that drives me crazy about some small businesses. They make it so hard for people to do business with them. Like
Yeah.
you can't find their phone number. Like you got to press 1 and then 2 and then 4 and then it's just mind blowing to me. But anyways,
Yeah.
we could talk about that for another hour. Thank you so much for hopping on, Loretta. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you so much, Shaheen.
Thanks, hon. We'll talk soon.